I would request Dr. Mohan Chellappa, our keynote speaker of the day, who is the President, Global Ventures, Johns Hopkins International. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mohan. Mohan Chellappa is a surgeon by qualification. He had an excellent innings as an eminent laparoscopic and minimally invasive surgeon and moved on to various administrative roles. He has been the founding member of the Johns Hopkins Medicine International, it started in 1997, involved in development of international clinical consultancy activities for the Johns Hopkins, which is a world-renowned organization. He is FACS, and a great management expert in his own style. He has been instrumental in securing and establishing many clinical and management and developmental initiatives of the Johns Hopkins medicine globally. He has brought the Johns Hopkins out of the US to the other portals of the world. And his notable achievement is Johns Hopkins Aramco Healthcare, a joint venture between Hopkins and Aramco, the world's largest energy company. Today, he has pioneered a lot of techniques in laparoscopy and also been very famous in the Eastern Asian markets. He has published several scientific and books and journals, including national and international presentations. Disorders of Spleen, his book, has been very famous and it's available to various new learners. He is an avid follower of technology and one of the founders of Quincy, a company in search technology. He started way back when we were still dealing with the artificial intelligence, search and thing. Mohan was very ahead of that. And he serves on the board of HCL Technologies here. I welcome Dr. Mohan Chellappa, who is going to address the keynote address of today.
Thank you, Dr. Swami. Thank you very much. And then good evening, friends and colleagues. Great. I think I'm going to cover in the next 15 to 20 minutes about how the recent trends which are happening on the healthcare scene. I want to use the word trends because innovations follow trends. Therefore, trends are more important for us to see. And then you have heard in the last 3 days several innovations, and you will be hearing more. And that's why I wanted to address the question of trends rather than the innovations. Just to give you a bit of an introduction about my institution, Johns Hopkins, the birthplace of US academic medicine. There are several things which I can talk about it, but the one which we are very proud of is 29 Nobel Prize winners were associated with Johns Hopkins, from its inception. As Dr. Swami mentioned, we started in Johns Hopkins Medicine International in 1997, which I helped to co-found. And the main idea was to actually both to take care of patients who come over from all over the world to get treatment from our institution, and also at the same time establish relationships internationally where we can share our common developments and common knowledge, and then try to see how we can together augment the healthcare systems in those host countries. In terms of the recent COVID, I think we have done, reasonably well. I think about $41 million in funding towards COVID research, $35 million from the US Department of Science, and about $6 million from us, 260 scientists sort of working on it, 25 plus projects, 100 over clinical trials in therapy. And recently, just about last week, we published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, a COVID inpatient risk calculator, which helps physicians to actually gauge the way the course of the COVID-19 patient after hospitalization would occur. This calculator is available in the link below, and then anyone can use that. And of course, I think Johns Hopkins, the computer science dashboard of COVID has about 5 billion users every day. Unfortunately, it created a big brunt in the financial and then the healthcare systems all over the world. In US, about the last 6 months, the hospitals lost close to about $23 billion, much more than the financial loss. We lost close to about 1.5 billion healthcare workers. 300 of them got back their jobs, but still close to about 727,000 are without jobs. And it is estimated that about 50% of the hospitals in the US will be negative profit in the coming year. What have you learned from the pandemic? We have learned a few things. One is the hospitals which we have today are quite rigid, and we needed more flexibility in the spaces. Patients and providers need to embrace new modalities of care. I think until now, everyone would have jumped on immediately an opportunity to make an appointment to visit a physician in your hospital, but patients are now thinking twice, thrice, even canceling appointments because they are scared of visiting the hospitals right away. We need to start harnessing more data and technology to increase our efficiencies in care delivery. And we also found out that individual patients' response could be remarkably different, and we needed to personalize testing and treatment in each one of them. None of them are mainly new. Some of them were already existent, but it became very clear and apparent because of the COVID. And I must also say these gaps are universal, whether it is US or India or any country. These are all, there was not much difference between the developed and then the emerging economies. But what we learned also is healthcare systems can be very resilient, and we can and must make some quick strategic changes. Care delivery model will move towards where the patient is. The patients no longer want to play a passive role. They want to play an active role in the, in whatever treatment they get and then their interactions with the hospitals. I think that there's going to be in the future, there will be hospitals which will be for complex procedures and high-end diagnosis at one end. And on the other end, there will be hospitals at home. In between, there will be health hubs. Hospitals are going to be much smaller than what they are today. They will become much more modular. Whenever you design a hospital, you are going to have a lot of inputs from the infectious diseases team. You have to design wings which can be negatively pressurized and quickly cut off from the main hospital if there is a need to be. Operating rooms needs to be positively pressurized until the end of all procedures. They need to be kept sealed until everyone goes out of the room. And then waiting rooms needs to be, reimagined. We may have to make them smaller, because if most of the medicine is moving towards telehealth and telemedicines, there is going to be lesser need for waiting rooms. And then there will be a lot of sensors which will be used, which will take automation of many of the work. Therefore, the workforce will be working differently. Therefore, these are changes which are going to come on the hospital design side. Then at the other end, when you have hospital at home, the home care services, but not at the way we are thinking today, but it will have all the bells and whistles to actually handle a patient who could actually be managed within a home with all the clinical and other parameters which you normally see if the patient is at home. It'll have all technology built in. Johns Hopkins sort of introduced this about a few years ago. And then what we found that there is a 30% less cost to deliver them, especially if you're managing cardiac rehabilitation patients or patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or other conditions which can be managed quite well. In between, we will see health hubs. These health hubs would be designed with patient experience in mind. They will provide all the ambulatory surgical procedures, daycare activities, almost all the diagnostics which needs to be put on to do this. It'll be a medical clinic, but however, it will also have wellness centers, and it will have social and holistic services, including spiritual care, yoga, whatever we need to do. We found one thing from the COVID in the sense that it is not purely healthcare. It is the social determinants like housing, employability, food security. All these things have got an impact of how, as healthcare providers, we get the final outcomes to do this. Therefore, we needed, these institutions will take care of that piece also. When we do these changes, we have to also keep in mind how it is going to be our workforce. The workforce is not going to be the same one here. We needed to do appropriate skilling for them. We see now there is even a new job description which helps us as a telehealth facilitators. It's a good opportunity for a lot of young graduates to join the workforce. Finally, the healthcare is going to be not a central model where the fulcrum of care means on the hospital. It is going to be a distributed model, and it will be always on, not the episodic as we see today. You heard there was a whole session of going on the virtual care. I don't want to go in details about this. Everyone has adopted it. There is a 75% satisfaction rate. It is estimated 1 in 3 future visits will be virtual. Patients have accepted it, providers have accepted it, governments have actually, so breaking the barriers in US, they actually changed all the rules related to state licensing, reimbursements for telehealth, et cetera, et cetera. Artificially, powered chatbots will actually be used for triage of patients when they are at home. It is not just taking their name, their address, and the age. It will have a lot more vitals which will be taken care of. Therefore, when they come to the hospital, they will come directly to see the to see the doctor, or either for diagnosis or for treatment. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be continuous telemonitoring will be on, because people are going to be concerned about how I manage my hypertension, how I manage my diabetes daily. Therefore, they want to have a continuous monitoring, which is transmitted to the physicians directly, and then sort of have some actions on it. NCD will take an importance. There will be a lot of new gadgets would be there, and this new gadgets production is going to be important. Some countries are taking a great, advanced leap on this, like South Korea, Israel. India has got a great opportunity because it has got a very strong engineering design team, and then the government's latest Make in India approach would also help that. There is a potential to Uberize healthcare logistics and patient transport, medication, medical equipment, even bed management. I know the chairman, Dr. Swami, is leading one such venture on that area. Data and technology will become pervasive. Artificial intelligence and machine learning can guide diagnosis, treatment protocols, drug delivery, personalized medicine, patient monitoring, and streamlining operations. The AI market size today in US is about $6.1 billion 2021, and it can potentially save about $150 billion annually in the future. In Johns Hopkins, we set up an AI-powered hospital command center, and this command center, what it does is it analyzes about 500 messages per minute from 14 different IT systems. And by using that, we are now able to actually increase our ability to admit patients by about 60%. And there is a higher than 21% increased discharges, which can be done before 12 p.m. the next day. As hospital administrators, you all will know how important it is. And then there is a 30% increase in bed assignment after emergency departments, when they are waiting in the ED. We also use another prediction mechanisms called TRUES, which actually helps in the ICU to predict the course of the patient who is very ill. It gives us an idea whether he is going to deteriorate or recover. This helps us in a few ways. One, it helps us to focus more on the particular patient. Second, we can adjust the manpower which needs to be done. Instead of 2 nurses, it can be 4 nurses which can be allocated to that patient. Third, it could get us to properly communicate to the relatives so that we can give them the true picture, so that the communications becomes much more easier. Not all AI needs to be very, very high powered. That can be simple one. There is one application which actually in real time analyzes the voice signals when a nurse or a care coordinator is speaking with a patient, and in real time advises the care coordinator whether he or she should change the tone or add more empathy in the conversation, so that I think you get the patient satisfaction more. Diagnosis, I think endoscopy, there is one application which actually helps the young endoscopists to pick up malignant polyps while they are in real time doing the endoscopy. This actually gives the power of an experienced endoscopy to a newcomer. There are several other learning applications which can be done on AI. I don't want to go through them, but I just wanted to highlight a few. You saw the title, it is a continuous learning AI. That means, you see, artificial intelligence, first of all, grows and learns more as we use it more. Therefore, today's AI will become much more intelligent tomorrow. That is going to happen. Therefore, the word which we needed to use now is how do we make it learn more, continuous learning. And also, we have to understand artificial intelligence is a co-pilot. It is not going to take over the work which we are doing. It is only helping us to streamline our work and help us to do it. There are two important things which we needed to keep in mind when we talk about artificial intelligence. One is ethics, because whatever outcomes which comes of an artificial intelligence application should be ethical, and it should not have any bias into do this. But these are two areas which always the opinion leaders are always seriously thinking about it. This is one AI application which we are doing in Johns Hopkins. PSMA is a protein molecule which is targeted in the prostate cancer. Therefore, we combine it with a drug which is found, from Hopkins, and then we use PET scans to actually do the analysis. And after the analysis, these outputs are automatically done by machine algorithms, and you will get a result whether the patient has a prostate cancer or not. Robots have always been used in healthcare and other industries a lot more, but coming into the healthcare, it's not new, but then there are a few applications which are making really a power on them. Virtual nurse assistance is actually the most valuable application of robots in healthcare. It is supposed to actually, have an annual, savings of close to about $20 billion. They are 24/7 time on. They can actually take care of, checking the vital signs and then making notes. And then they could also answer some simple questions from the patient so that they can keep them engaged on it. Therefore, they are going to be a prime time in the years to come. Robots have been used in surgery, but AI-powered robots have actually shown that they could be as precise as most experienced surgeon. In one study, which was done about 369 patients in orthopedic surgery, there was a 21% reduction in hospital stay and 20% less complications by using robots. The next trend which is happening is the application of Internet of Things. And Internet of Things, machines talking to machines. 30 billion units today in 2020, it is supposed to increase to 75 billion units rapidly. The two areas in which they play a significant role is patient safety and smart hospitals. As hospital owners and administrators, you all know that patient safety is a very, very important thing for us. So we are always worried how the machines will maintain and then whether they would fail at any point in time. The Internet of Things, when it is embedded, takes care of it by itself. We developed a system in which when a physician walks into an ICU room, he gets a picture of whatever, not only vitals, what are the red flags, and how the interaction of these machines are happening so that we get a better picture of that level. Digital twins. Digital twins is something which has been used in other industries, but now it's getting application in healthcare. Digital twins simply is actually creating a virtual replica. In the Apollo 13 mission, NASA had the replica of all the spacecrafts down in the earth so that they can address the issues which come up in the space very immediately. Just imagine applying it in a human model. If we have a virtual replica of a patient, and then we can try whatever drugs and medications which needs to be done, and then see the outcomes of that. You can actually even provide treatment for a patient who is about 5,000 miles away. It may look like a sci-fi, but it is going to happen in the near future. Therefore, we should all be prepared for that. Augmented reality in training and mentoring. This is a very key area, because this is one area where I think we can make a significant sort of changes in the workforce. There is a group in London which has created a product with which a person who is a physician or a surgeon who is sitting 5,000 miles away can actually mentor a physician in his operating room how to take care of a difficult case to do without actually even going over there. With all this, we will know that the electronic medical records, The large-sized ones which you have today is going to change. They are going to be small, agile, modular. They will probably be hosted in a hybrid cloud, and cybersecurity measures will be taken care of. Combination of edge computing, Internet of Things, AI, machine learning, 5G, and digital twins is the next wave, and then it is going to make big changes. Personalized testing and treatment. Combining clinical, genetic, and lifestyle factors is going to make us a lot more wiser in treating patients in a hyper-personalized way. You all know that Moderna, the company from US, actually brought a vaccine candidate just within 63 days after sequencing the virus, using all the techniques in which they can sort of link this thing. Johns Hopkins uses a platform called PMAP, Precision Medicine Analytics Platform, where the internal data is curated and made in a way that scientists and other researchers can actually apply that and then get the results and make the AI much more precise than what it is. Finally, I wanted to give some concluding words. With all these emerging trends, let us address the three issues which we all face as healthcare professionals: quality, access, and then cost. We need to address how do we break our barriers for the quality care. Telehealth and remote monitoring helps there. Reducing cost of care. 30% of the cost of healthcare is due to processes which can be automated. AI and machine learning will help us to do it. Quality, devoting physicians' time more for clinical care. Robots and decision support systems will help us to do that so that we can focus more on the quality of the care. But with all this, we can do it with technology. But then there are things which we have to do as persons. So I think that's one is during the COVID epidemic, the healthcare system really sort of stood up. They actually managed the surge of patients who are coming in. They managed the patients who have to be taken care of, like cardiac patients and cancer patients. They actually took care of their employees and their families' wealth and health. And then they also sort of managed to see how the operations can be kept financially in a surviving model so that we don't get lost. We have to make sure that the other issue which came up very apparent by the COVID-19, the disparity between the outcome which occurs in economically well-to-do people and economically poor people. This disparity also we should address. But that can all be done only by creating collaborations across borders, collaborations within the hospital systems, and collaborations among ourselves. Rethinking and reconfiguring healthcare for the future. Time is now for us to grab these opportunities. Thank you very much. I also wanted to give credits to a couple of my colleagues, Dr. Martin Pomper, Professor of Radiology, and Christine Pinheiro, who helped me in making this presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mohan. That was a wonderful presentation of what's happening in the Hopkins and other part of the world. We really appreciate your early morning taking time out to give this important, very encouraging message to the participants of the CAHOTECH.
Sir, the first question is, in India, what's the current scenario and options available with respect to artificial intelligence? And the second question is a continuation of the first. And in how many years will this future medicine likely to actualize?
You see, the way artificial intelligence actually is being applied, I would say, in bits and pieces, and certain areas which I think it will be useful, and certain areas that it will have a larger impact on that level. And in India, as you know, is probably the largest IT technology provider for many of the services in the world. I think we have got the biggest IT companies which are sort of providing those services. And then that area is actually, India is very strong. The area in which there needs to be some, I would say, more investments, and also in terms of strength which needs to happen, is in terms of the research which is associated with the application of AI, mainly in universities and other areas which needs to happen, compared to some of the other countries which are putting in significant amount of, money to do. But I know the approach of the Indian approach seems to be more on the application side and see how it will be useful to the public. Like Dr. Pawan said, I think we have to use these opportunities and technology to actually address a large segment of the population, which today is either unable to access good quality care, or they are in a stage where I think they could not actually even get the same benefits as it will happen to other, well-to-do components of that society. For in my view, I think there are some hospitals actually even looking at it and then sort of trying to use those applications, mainly in operations, to do that. And I think by collaborations, I think we can reach a much more faster applications of them to do. The second question, you mentioned how long would it take in that level, all I can say now is whatever estimate which we have had before on the application of technology of that will happen in X number of years, that has been reduced to half or 1/3 by the pandemic. The pandemic has shown that some of these applications needs to be done urgently and quickly. I think like Satya Nadella said, that look fine. The digital transformation, which is supposed to happen, 3 years or so, is now happening 3 months. I think the same way, I think the technological innovations are all going to happen, the faster.
Thank you, Mohan.
What will be the impact of technology and innovations on staffing in healthcare?
Yes, I think this is what actually, even Mehul addressed in his talk. It is going to certainly make quite a significant amount of changes. In fact, I think we would have to look at even how do we train our physicians in order to sort of adopt these technology well, and then think like, the machines as a kind of, as a corollaries along with them to do that. But then the good points about that is, I think there is quite a good breed of both, physicians today, the support staff and all those things with all the, the younger workforce which is coming in, they can adapt to these things much more, easily and ready to do that. Therefore, I have a lot of faith. I think that will happen, but I think both the governments, institutions, and training institutions and hospitals should take some proactive ways of addressing that.
Use of AI in healthcare is informative, but what is the reliability of using it when a surgeon has to take a dynamic decision based on the risk of a patient?
Once we start relying on some of these artificial intelligence and machines and other things, I think we should not going to be sort of, as it mentioned, it is a co-pilot. I think we would still have to be making the decisions which are needed for that. But then what's going to happen is we'll have a lot more data, a lot more decisions support which comes to us, so that our choices of choosing what needs to be done is much more easier. I think one of the research which came out of MIT is they could actually got an algorithm with which they could actually analyze 3D scans about 1,000 times faster than human beings to do that. That means if you're operating and if you're in the middle of it, and then if you have taken some intraoperative radiology, and then you want to look at it and get some observations and decide what is your next step, this algorithm and this setup would actually help you a lot more into that, so that I think your decisions are becoming much more precise and better. We are not going to let the machines take the decisions. We will still be making the decisions, but they are going to support that much, much more than what it is today.
Thank you, Mohan.